So the long day is almost over. The sun is setting, the moon is rising, and the trench has been dug. And while it wasn't that many hours worked, and I only did a very, very small portion of this, most of it was hired out, I'm still quite exhausted from the day as it was very stressful. And I did actually get down in the trench and help a little bit, so I did get muddy too. This is the power line going down to my crawl space. And tomorrow they are going to attach PVC to this and run it to the container. Below, the water line is in. It's just sticking out here, but it's 3/4 inch PEX. And there'll have to be another hole and all kinds of stuff added here for the water to come from the house. So the problem started digging almost right away here. This is a concrete foundation that I didn't know was here. There's no call before you dig for something like this. It's possible the township had some records, but I really don't know. I didn't check. So yeah, there's a concrete foundation, which we didn't know what the heck it was here. And it goes down so deep, they actually had to drill holes. So there's one already buried. This foam is just extra insulation for the water line, which it probably doesn't need, but I don't think that was very much money. The original water line doesn't have it, so that's why I think it doesn't need it. It's never frozen. But you can see the second hole there is where the power line will go through. And then there's another concrete foundation here, which is actually almost certainly an old septic tank. So this was very hard to dig out, both by hand and with machines. So they actually pulled out this huge chunk of concrete here. And this appears to be a wagon wheel that was used as rebar. So part of it was cut out with, I don't know, a metal blade on a reciprocating saw. And then they were finally able to pull it out. So that was a lot of fun. Over here, there's an extra hole because my house water line was hit. It's an artesian well right over here. And I would have thought they would have done the water line in a straight line. I know my well pump is in the crawl space right at the end there. But for whatever reason, it snakes around this way. So that was hit, and this was quickly filling with water. So everyone working got wet and muddy. Fortunately, it was an easy patch, which they did, and that was not part of the original plan. But after that was patched rather quickly, they happened to have enough parts to do it. A second water line over here was hit. So it started to fill up with water a second time. There's all kinds of extra stuff. This is a drain line that goes to nowhere. This second water line here, I knew it was here, but not exactly here, because where the container is, there was a water line going literally to nowhere. A long time ago, my house was two pink cottages that were combined to this house. It's a pretty standard 3-bedroom house, 2-bathroom. And they neglected to tell us this when we bought the house, but there were some signs. I think in the earlier video where I talk about getting the container, you could see the foundation blocks that were here. So anyways, this part here is where the power is going to go. So they are going to drill into the container here. There'll be a generator hookup on the outside for power failure, so I can just put a generator here, hook it up, and it will power everything. It's a bit of a mess in here now, but the breaker panel is here. They're going to put it up here. And once this is all done, I'm going to settle up my bill since it's already over what I was hoping it would be. And then in a couple of weeks, I'll have my electrician back to do the wiring. Further down, which has already been covered up, is the water line continuing. So this part was left exposed, and there's a little bit of extra line. So they can drill into the container here And then I'll have a sink on the other side, and this is where the water line will be. They have to put heat tape or whatever they call it on the line. And then they suggested that I'm going to need to build a little plywood box here to keep it from freezing. Now, some people would be upset to see their grass torn up. I'm quite happy that this happened because that's less to cut. Now, while fall is quickly coming, I really don't want to cut the grass more than one more time, and the less to cut, the better. So what I am going to do later, and like this part will not be finished until probably next month or even the month after, as long as I get it done before winter. But I'm going to just do a drain here, and then I'm just going to run it into my yard over here. Like this is just really nothing over here. That may or may not be up to code. It's kind of a gray water scenario. Obviously, there's no toilet or anything like that. So instead of tying it into a septic at many thousands of dollars, I'll just run it into my yard, and that should be fine. Next year, I might even do a saltwater pond, although nothing would probably live in it, but that's okay. So that's where I'm at now. They are coming back tomorrow afternoon, and the breaker box will be installed. They're just going to do probably 4 outlets, and that's just so I can try it out and whatnot. It's because this is costing many, many thousands of dollars. I would rather get this in now and then have him come back. So originally I was going to do 3 rows of outlets per rack, but I'm thinking I'm going to reduce that to 2. There's no light in here now, obviously, so it's quite dark. That should be good enough because everything's going to be powered by a main pump and air lines and whatnot. So in theory, I shouldn't really have anything plugged into the tanks, but I'll still have the outlets just in case. So this is a 60 amp breaker box, which will tie into my 200 amp panel. And other than the heating for the actual container, there shouldn't be too much electrical usage, but I'm going to use all the slots on the panel just so that if something does get wet and it trips, it's not going to blow anything that's critical. So yeah, if you're thinking of building a coral farm, a hatchery, really any kind of outbuilding, this is what you're in for. It seemed like it would be such an easy job, and you know, the guys I had were great, but there was a lot of unforeseen things, and unless you really know what's below you, you never know what you're going to find. Thanks for watching. Happy reefing, happy coral farming, happy hatcheries.